I'm pretty bad at multiplayer. And by pretty bad, I mean actually bad. So when I say that I love first-person shooters, know that whatever first-person competitive multiplayer, whatever you're playing with its incredibly complicated 360 no-scopes and just breakneck pacing isn't what I'm talking about. It's not that I don't like them, it's just that they make me feel really old. And like any grumpy old man, I long for a time when things were better. A time where multiplayer bots were still a thing. Don't get me wrong, 8-player Halo 3 LAN parties were pretty cool, and GoldenEye shootouts were memorable. But in 2005 or so, it was pretty damn hard to get all your friends together for a round of Duck Hunt. I mean, one's got Cub Scouts and the other's at Vacation Bible School, so how was I, a 12-year-old Midwestern kid with no job, no money, and no internet, going to survive the summer? Well, I'm not gonna play Halo, mostly because I didn't have an Xbox, but partly because it didn't have bots. If you're like, hey, what the hell are bots? Because you're not an old person who smells kind of funny, you know? It's when games with prominent multiplayer split-screen modes will populate their matches with players who aren't programmed to badmouth your mom. That's a tad vague, I know. Is any game of Madden technically bot gameplay, since an AI is making decisions and is functionally the same as if you played with a real person? Probably, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about combat. Artificial intelligence designed to kill me or help me.
Come with me if you want to live.
The Nintendo party games aren't what would be considered bot multiplayer, but games like Smash, Mario Kart, and even Mario Party offer single-player options that are nearly identical to their multiplayer counterparts. So even if I don't have 4 people to play with, I can spend my evening learning how far we've strayed from God's light in a round of Mario Party. Hypothetically, if I was an only child or the last man on Earth, I could play Smash indefinitely and get beat by Ness until I die of starvation.
That's not fair. That's not fair at all.
It's probably the most simplified version of these kind of, bots, but by giving a variety of criteria to tailor certain matches to be as anarchistic or as tame as possible, there's an opportunity for quite a few more hours after old Jimmy falls asleep at the sleepover. Does that sound weird? See, oftentimes you could craft these bots to fit your playstyle, controlling what weapons they use, their personalities, and how much health they have. In the early 2000s, there were a slew of kinda goofy post-GoldenEye first-person shooters with absolutely stellar bot options and an immense amount of maps, modes, and characters to create a dynamic and fun experience. Perfect Dark, Nightfire, Time Splitters, games that I definitely played just with bots, but really fell in love with using the bots to challenge my friends and I. Nightfire in particular had all of these Bond heroes and villains to be unlocked and grow a roster that can shoot at you from cable cars or whatever. Do you love Oddjob? Christmas Jones? Xenia Onatopp? Well, they're here for some reason, and it led to endlessly and carefully creating a worthy opponent. Which, to have these endlessly endless rounds of multiplayer content in a licensed game in a universe that I was obsessed with, kind of made my brain crap its pants a little bit. I cannot underestimate the amount of times I played solo lightsaber multiplayer by myself in Jedi Outcast. Have I made a masturbation joke yet? Solo lightsaber multiplayer, Having the opportunity to play in arenas from the Star Wars universe against a Rebel Commando or Swamp Trooper with a flippin' lightsaber, that's pretty damn cool, and sparked a lot of my childhood Star Wars fanfiction. And actually being able to play Left 4 Dead by making sure that I actually have 4 friends to be left dead with was just one of the greatest ways to experience that game. A lot of older arena shooters got this trend to be more popular, and while there were probably bots around before this, how would I know? I'm not actually going to do any research. Getting fragged in Quake or doing some other thing in Unreal Tournament had huge influences on their console counterparts, jump-starting and popularizing couch split screen in a time after GoldenEye. Time Splitters thrives in that environment, providing players with the means to create their own fun no matter what, giving them colorful characters, wacky weapons, and plenty of modes to keep everything interesting. That's the appeal here. Without being bogged down by story, tiresome objectives, or human interaction, bot multiplayer lets a player, play. It's like instant action in Battlefront. With some parameters, getting into a game is not instant, like the title suggests, but pretty damn quick. I've played Mos Eisley Assault and Battlefront 2 with all the heroes more times than I'm willing to admit, and instead of being competitive, I just, had fun. I don't know, eventually all of these servers are going to close down and all of your friends are going to move on to whatever game came out this month. And your nostalgic ass is going to want to play something that needs more players than Michael Bloomberg has voters. But if it has bots, you may be missing that little bit of human interaction, but at least you can still revisit it with ease. Pretty regularly, I boot up Nightfire and play a couple rounds for old time's sake. Nothing too serious, but just a couple of rounds on Phoenix Base to get those nostalgic juices flowing. And if this were Halo, that wouldn't be something we'd be able to do, and that's a bit of a shame. It's an artifact of a time where console internet connection wasn't just uncommon, but also unusual. Nowadays though, with emulation and forums and subreddits for about any game ever, it's super easy to get a match going in about any title. Communities are popping up left and right around games that some people forgot existed, and that's pretty cool. Games are admittedly more fun with friends, but that doesn't mean I'm not really thankful for a time when it had bots, because then I could actually win. Thanks for watching. We've got some huge plans for 2020, so you should definitely subscribe.